What's up everyone, it's Dakota and welcome back to another spoilers video, and today we're going to be taking a look at some of the cards that were spoiled on the live stream just the other day. Some cards that are going to be in Phyrexia, all will be one. Of course, if you like seeing content like this, please leave a like on the video and of course subscribe and turn on notifications for the channel so you know when I upload videos. I'm not going to be going over every single version of the Elesh, Norn and all the other Praetors that are going to be released, but real quickly I'll kind of scroll by them. And of course some special versions of some of the other cards. So scroll right to the bottom, scroll past those beautiful full art lands that we can see in the Phyrexian language, and we're going to get into the meat potatoes, essentially the regular versions of the cards that are already spoiled so far. So first, Elesh Norn, Mother of Machines. Elesh Norn, Mother of Machines, has Vigilance. It's a 5 mana for a 4/7 legendary creature. If a permanent entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, it triggers an additional time. Permanents entering the battlefield don't cause abilities of permanents your opponents control to trigger. So essentially, it's a Panharmonicon and a Hushbringer on a body. 5 mana for 4/7. Like the stats are pretty good. The ability is okay. I think on both ends, I think you probably get a lot more, obviously, building around this card as like a Panharmonicon or like another Panharmonicon, more so than getting like the Hushbringer type ability that you get on the bottom half of it. But overall, to me, probably one of the least exciting, probably the least sexy in terms of how these cards will play out. As far as like the other Praetors and stuff, probably down there with Urbrask, more, and then not really up there with like Shieldred and Vorinclex. But nonetheless, still interesting, completes the cycle, and only time will tell if this card will actually make an impact in Standard or possibly even some of the other formats, kind of like its other Praetor counterparts. Next, we have Blue Sun's Twilight. Is a double blue and X sorcery. You gain control of target creature with mana value X or less. If X is 5 or more, create a token that's a copy of that creature. So, notably with this, and something that I think people don't really think of right off the rip, that if X is 5 or greater, even if the creature costs like 1 mana, you can just overpay and take the creature. And then if you paid at least 5 for X, you can make a copy of that creature. So, just something to keep in mind when getting to play a card like this. Obviously, game control effects in standard and even like other formats have to be very, very good on rate. And while I think Blue Sun's Twilight, like taking a 5 mana card in modern or even like Pioneer, and then getting to copy it is pretty good, but I think it borders on closer to unplayable just from the efficiency of the format. Nonetheless, it's a really interesting card to like get to play in like Commander, maybe even seeing some play in Standard, or just some crazy like ramp deck that just gets to gain control of a creature. Notably too, it doesn't require you to gain control of a creature that like you don't own. So I mean, you could target your own creature, and it's a very expensive way just to make a copy of it, but that is something that you can do. Where most cards don't actually let you do things like that, it forces you to target a creature that opponent controls. So, just a little tidbit of information. A little bit of oversharing, probably. Next, we have Phyrexian Obliterator. Phyrexian Obliterator is actually a reprint from, I believe, the original Return to Mirrodin set. It is a quadruple black for a 5/5 with trample, and whenever a source deals damage to Phyrexian Obliterator, that source's controller sacrifices that many permanents. So essentially, if your opponent blocks with like a 5/5 creature, they're going to lose their 5/5 in combat. You're going to lose yours, and they're also going to have to sack 5 permanents. If you try to deal with it with burn spells, the same thing applies. You will just have to sacrifice that many permanents. Doesn't even matter if the obliterator doesn't die, so on and so forth. Could make mono black devotion or even like mono black aggro decks pretty good. I mean, having a 4 mana 5/5 just already on rate is pretty good. Add trample to that, it makes it very aggressive, and then of course your opponent's trying to block it is going to be pretty rough when they have to end up losing permanents, and a lot of decks fail to keep a lot of permanents on the battlefield, or will fail to keep a lot of permanents on the battlefield and still be able to function after Phyrexian Obliterator gets to do its thing. So really cool reprint. The art is really nice on it too. So definitely look forward to seeing that. Hopefully being played in Pioneer, because I think that is definitely a pretty good card for Pioneer. Here we have Slowbad Iron Goblin next, a 3 mana 3/3 legendary Phyrexian Goblin Artificer that you can tap, sacrifice an artifact, and you add an amount of red mana equal to sacrificed artifact's mana value. Spend this mana only to cast artifact spells or activate abilities of artifacts. Right off the rip, there is a few like artifacts that are pretty good that want to end up getting pitched. Mainly like Ichor Wellspring is like a small one, easy way just to generate 2 mana, draw a card. You have Ugin's Nexus, which will let you take an extra turn and of course generate tons of mana. Definitely ways that you can kind of sneak things into play, like some of the new cards like Phyrexian Portal, maybe even getting to unearth some other creatures from the previous Brothers War set and sacrifice them to make a ton of mana to end up playing more permanent artifacts that will come into play. So definitely interesting. I don't know exactly where this fits because in Modern and Pioneer especially, there's not very many like big artifacts that have a payoff that is kind of worth it that decks are trying to play, unless you're playing like Mono Green Devotion, which you obviously don't need so bad to make a ton of mana or even like the artifacts and stuff to make that deck good. So it'd be interesting to see where this goes. I'm sure definitely finds a home like in Commander, just getting to play like some very big artifacts for cheaper and getting to essentially get powerful ETBs and or leaves the battlefield triggers from them to make a ton of mana to just kind of keep the chain going. Uh, Jor Kadeen, First Gold Warden, is a 2 mana 2/2 human rebel with trample. When it attacks, it gets +X/+X till end of turn, where X is the number of equipped creatures you control, and then if its power is 4 or greater, draw a card. So it does count itself, so if you just have it equipped and attacking, it'll get whatever buff from the equipment plus +1/+1. Obviously, hopefully it gets up to 4 or greater and you get to draw a card. Also getting to equip multiple creatures, you're not necessarily forced to, in most decks, just stack a ton of equipments onto one creature and then getting paid off for it that way. This actually rewards you for spreading out the equipment and even to a point getting aggressive. Doesn't even necessarily care if those creatures are also attacking either. So you could just have some equipment made for like defense and then get to attack with this, make it super huge, trample over a bunch of things, and of course draw a card for your troubles as well. Very interesting and could be an interesting piece of something in some aggro decks. The equip being the big issue because you obviously have to spend much more mana to play and equip certain things. But nonetheless, could be very interesting to see where it goes in other Eternal formats. Finally, we have one of the planeswalkers that has been spoiled, and we have Koth, Fire of Resistance. This is our first time seeing Koth in a very long time in a set. 4 mana, 4 loyalty, +2, get to search your library for a basic mountain, reveal it, put it to your hand, then you shuffle. Koth of the Resistance deals damage to target creature equal to the number of mountains you control, and -7, you get an emblem with whenever a mountain enters the battlefield in your control, it deals 4 damage to any target. Pretty exciting planeswalker in all honesty to me. The fact that +2 does only search a basic mountain and not a card with the basic mountain land type is obviously a little bit of a drawback, but for like mono red decks that may be trying to go a little bit bigger, this could be a reason to play some of those decks. Like Chandra's is pretty good, but Koth also is now just a way to ensure that you get your 5th land drop. You get to play like in other formats, Glorybringer, or some other big like 5 mana red spells, Glorybringer just being the best one in my opinion, or just getting to have removal because it only cares about the mountains that you control, and the emblem also cares about mountains, not just basic mountains. So Koth definitely does have the versatility to, you play it on turn 4, you just get to deal 4 damage to something, and then of course just get to slowly tick up and make sure that you hit your land drops. Also, the fact that it does add a card to your hand, whether it is a basic mountain or not. It also opens the door to play Tormenting Voice type effects or the big score type effects where you just get to discard a card from your hand and then like draw cards is definitely a way to kind of buffer the hand total there, if you will. Finally, the emblem just could straight up win the game, especially in conjunction with another Koth. Koth is essentially going to search for a basic land, ensure you hit your land drop, and then 4 to any target. Can manage the board really nicely and can eventually just go to the face when need be. And of course, playing 5 mountains, you can just win the game. You can probably combine this with something like Scape Shift, and this will be kind of like a makeshift like Valakut win for some decks in Pioneer, should Koth actually see play in the format, which I think he's definitely worth at least trying out. Notably too, if the set symbols are right, Koth is printed at a rare. Normally we see Planeswalkers printed at mythic rarity, unless it is like War of the Spark, where you had Planeswalkers that like uncommon and rare as well as mythic rare. So very interesting to see. It's gonna be interesting how limited plays out with that, because usually planeswalkers of almost any variety are pretty good in limited, and Koth is going to, I think, be a pretty good card, especially in limited as well, if you're not able to pressure it. So those are the spells. These are the new cards that were uh, spoiled, excuse me, in the Phyrexia All Will Be One set. So far, pretty sweet. Jor and Slowbad kind of like meh to me. Even like Blue Sun's Twilight, Elesh Norn's kind of like whatever. I'm most excited about the Phyrexian Obliterator and the Call of Fire of Resistance, just because these two cards definitely seem like almost a slam dunk to be played at least in Pioneer or Modern. Uh, Mainly Pioneer, because I don't think Koth is going to be good for Modern necessarily, and Phyrexian Obliterator is already legal in Modern. But nonetheless, these should make an impact in Pioneer to some degree, and that's kind of all you can hope for in sets like these, because I definitely think these cards will also be standard playable cards, as long as they have the proper support from either future sets coming up, or just from past sets of cards that might be overlooked uh, now that kind of get a chance to shine because we have these cards being printed. So if you enjoy this video and you want to see more like analysis and stuff like that on spoiler cards, and just in general like my thoughts, opinions, feelings, whatnot, and just more videos like this showing off new cards from the new set, please be sure to leave a like on the video, and of course subscribe and ring the notification bell. It's an easy way to support my channel, and really makes me feel good. I like seeing that subscriber count go up like anybody else would. And that's going to do it for me in this video. I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope to see you all in the next one.